So thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, man.
You are Eric Toms.
I am.
I did write a little. I normally don't introduce my guests very much, but I will introduce you a little bit here. I think of you. You're quite like the multi-hyphenate, right? I primarily see you as an actor, but you also have a history of doing stand-up. Mm-hmm. You produce, you write, you direct. I think you edit too. You don't really edit.
A little
you
bit.
Can edit.
I'm capable of it, but it's not my strength.
I first met you as you were the host of Night of Shorts Night. Mm-hmm. And now, I guess recently, you're also a programmer for Newport Beach Film Festival.
That's right. Yep.
Yes. So all that stuff. It's a lot of stuff. And we can talk about all of it individually and all that good stuff. But how do you want to be known? What's your, let's start with that.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just posed this question the other day, and like somebody had asked me, it was like, "Oh, what's like the first thing
right
you want?" And strangely, I think like these days, it is a weird question to answer, and I think because you're also a multi-hyphenate as well, you do a bunch of things.
Sure.
You know that one feeds into the other. So it's just like I think above all else, consider myself a writer. Like, that's really the thing it's the stuff that I write every day. It's some stuff of the last couple of years, like now I'm going to be pretty proud of my writing. I think it's the thing that I can vacillate between genres pretty well. Whereas like with, when it comes to acting, like I'm really just a comedic actor. Sure. I can do some dramatic stuff, but it's just when I walk on stage, people start laughing. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but but that's what it is, man. Okay. But yeah, I think actor, writer are really the things that if I had a magic wand and could create any job, then that's what it would be. It would be me writing on a show in which I was acting in, or me writing in a movie that like I was also acting in. Something like, I feel like directing and producing, I do out of, as Mel Brooks says, I do it out of self-defense. Like if I give it to somebody else, like, they're probably going to screw it up, so I'll just go ahead and direct it. Or like, when it comes to producing, as you know, we live in this very DIY era. And, if you're coming out, if you're coming out to Los Angeles or New York or any major city and you're just going to do one job, I don't think you have much of a chance anymore. I think that places that hire, with the exception of maybe like very, very high-end actors or some writers, but usually whenever you meet people now, there's a term that I hate, but it's such a shortcut, which is content creator. And I hate the idea of thinking of art or entertainment as content. Like, that makes it sound like you're just filling up boxes into space. Like, it's a little bit more special than that. But everyone now, like Alec Baldwin, who's been acting forever, has a podcast, and he goes around and he sets up his microphones and he goes and it does his show. And then like I'm sure he takes it to an editor, but he has some understanding of how all of that happens. So I primarily, to answer the most long-winded answer I could give you. Sure. Writer-actor.
Okay. Writer-actor. Because you said a lot there. Now you said that you produce and direct out of self-defense is how you described it? Yeah. Okay. Now, when I think about... All right. Where do I go with that? I think about... It's similar to... Okay. Do you write do you direct and produce because you're afraid someone is going to mess it up? Or is there also this layer of it's not going to get done unless I produce and direct it? Is that a thing that happens too, or do you have...
Yeah, I think...
I guess depending, maybe.
It may be honestly some like low-level trust issues. Like I think maybe it might be also... where I'm just like, I have to get this thing done, so I guess I'm just going to do all the stuff. And, in doing that, I think you you get something where like I don't have to wait on anybody. Like I don't have to send an email to some guy or some woman and then wait for them to process it and then come back to me. It's like I can just do everything right now.
Right.
And I love immediacy. I love like stand up was so great for me because it was literally, you
It's
write
all
a
you.
joke today. Yeah. And then I'm going on stage tonight and I can see if that works or not. And I love that turnaround. I hated the travel though.
Yeah.
It was such a lonely job and I did it for years, but yeah, working the road was gnarly, man. It was rough.
All right. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
All right.
We got time.
Yeah.
We got time. All right. So it sounds like, I mean, it's a classic thing. Like it's control feels good, especially when you're the curator of the idea, and like that's kind of where you're coming from. Is trust issues lead into the control of the product, and okay, all right, that all makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about myself in terms of me as a writer. Initially, I wrote because I wanted to direct.
Yeah.
So it was a similar thing where I only did it because it got me to this other point where it sounds like that's a similar situation.
Yeah. Do you like writing?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
I mean, I've written forever. I've written since I was a little kid. I always think about the creative, like, narratives, kind of short story stuff, like just prose with adventures of my stuffed animals and like that kind of stuff that I would try to write. And then, of course, I didn't know how to write. I got bogged down, even as a kid, with like, you get to writing and then you just like lose track of where it's going. This is going nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always super big on the writing side. Just it wasn't my primary objective.
Yeah. I have found, I think, it's one of the reasons why I like writing so much is that like when you write something, it's done. That's it. Like you've written the thing. It's complete. What is tough about acting is, by and large, it's hard because if you want to act, you need an audience, you need probably a scene partner, you need a place to do it. Like there's so much that goes along with acting that can stop you a lot of times. I think it's a little bit different now with things like YouTube, and like putting yourself online. It's like that's cool. You don't get the live audience feel.
Yeah.
But writing I do love just because it's so self-contained. Like you write a thing and like that's it, you're done. You wrote the thing. You're all finished.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely self-contained. I'm trying to figure out on where I want to go next. There's so many avenues, but okay, let's just stick with. I mean, you mentioned stand-up comedy. You mentioned writing. I did want to. You were definitely describing the night of shorts night mentality too, with moving to LA and getting stuff done. I don't know where to go. Let's hear about. I just want to hear more about you right now. So you mentioned the writers, kind of what you're honing into right now is more primarily what was your answer. So can we talk about your recent stuff, or like I know that you go with that. I don't know what you're working on.
Well, I tell you, it's funny. So we're in November now, the lockdown, and in the first couple of months, I reached out to I'm doing pretty well financially. Not to say that I'm rich.
Sure.
I lost my job because of COVID. I was doing I was working on a Disney Plus show, but like my wife makes good money. We're afloat. We're fine. I know a lot of artists, who are single income, who their livelihood or maybe their side hustle was directly they lost their job. So I was seeking out artists to try and support people. And one of the people I went to was a guy named Nicholas Thurkettle, who's presented at the Night Shorts before. And I've never been a very effective Shakespearean actor. I've done it before, but I'm sweating bullets and I'm just trying to get all the words out in the right order. That's all I'm doing. So I went to him and I was like, hey man, I'll throw some money at you and you give me some acting lessons on Shakespeare. And he was fantastic. And in doing that, it kind of ignited something in me. I was like, oh, let's do some more scenes. And I contacted a few friends and I wrote a scene. It was kind of politically charged. because it's been on top of mind for the last, I don't know how many years now.
For whatever reason, yeah. Go on.
So I wrote it out, and I got some friends together, and we did it via Zoom. And of course, the inevitable question was like, okay, well, what are you going to do with this? And they had said like, oh, you should film it and make it into a short. And I really didn't want to because it required 4 guys in a restaurant all sitting at the same booth talking. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. Yeah. And also like renting the place would be difficult, like all of these things. And then somebody else said, oh, we can do it like maybe in a play. We'll do it in somebody's backyard and we'll socially distance. And I was like, that sounds kind of lame, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So then I had the idea of like, oh, what about like an audio drama? Because each of the guys, like we all like had kind of voiceover setups. And so we did that. We did a Zoom, and then we each of us like were in our closet with a microphone, and we all recorded our parts, and then I cut them together and made this little audio drama, and I am hooked, dude. Like, I love it. I'm so on board. I wrote the next one. I'm getting ready to send that to my actors for the next one that we're going to do. I'm going to do 12 altogether and release a season of a podcast.
Okay.
So it'll be like Twilight Zone-esque.
Yeah.
But I love it because same thing, like we talked about before, like the immediacy of it. Like, I write it. It takes me, 3-4 days. Show it to somebody, sit on it for a sec. So about a week. And then for all the pieces I write are about 10 pages. So then I get together with the actors. We do it 2-3 times. It's about an hour. And then we get together and we record on Zoom. And that's maybe 45 minutes. We run through it, 3 times. And then I cut it together. And because it's just audio, it's so much easier.
You can do a lot with that.
And the nice thing is being an actor, too, you're so much more versatile. Like, I have to look like this, but I can sound like anything. So that's been a nice thing I found as well with my actors. Like, you can also, it's like, oh, you can be a lot more than just what you normally play. So that is the thing that I'm working on right now. The first one...
and sorry to interject. Is that because you mentioned the Shakespearean stuff you were kind of practicing with? Are you writing Shakespeare? Does this lead into there at all? Like, for some reason, my mind went to like, you guys are performing some Shakespearean stuff to start with, and then you're writing your own stuff. So I'm like, I was trying to see if Shakespeare.
No, the through line was more Nicholas Thurkettle was one of the actors that I ended up using. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, like, he really ignited that. Like, okay, let's get together and make some stuff in the safest way we know how, which ended up being like these audio dramas. And the nice thing is, too, there's so many of my actor friends are just sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for the industry to start again. Yeah. And so, like, I get my pick of the litter as far as actors goes. Like, everyone's available. They're all just sitting around. So I'm like, okay, cool. This could be a good opportunity for me to, like, reach out to some people who are probably, in upper echelons, like, in the game, who are probably still just waiting for stuff to start. I'm like, all right, terrific. Come out and do this thing. It takes
have some fun.
Exactly, have some fun.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on primarily right now. I veered I'm veering pretty far away from comedy. A lot of the stuff that I'm writing right now is people transitioning to a bad place. Like, usually the play starts off in a fairly mundane kind of spot. It's these, we introduce the characters and these people, and then it's their slowly getting pulled into some dangerous or maybe devious somebody else's plan or plot. And that's kind of where my head's at right now. Okay. I am curious. We just had the election. I'm wondering if after this I might be much more upbeat.
Yeah, you might be. So you said it's Twilight Zone-esque in a way that it's more. I mean, each episode is a self-contained thing. It's not a. That's okay.
Yeah. Right. And some of my favorite episodes. I'm a huge Rod Serling fan. If you go inside my place, I've got like 3 or 4 framed pictures of him. He had incredible, just the amount of work that he came up with was insane. I mean, he wrote, I think 95% of all the Twilight episodes, and there were 37 episodes per season. Like, it was an insane amount. And I think he was doing like a daytime radio show as well, and then would write movies and plays on top of that. Like, he was so prolific. Yeah. And he stood for, so many of the things that he fought for then we're still fighting for today. He was very, he stood up against fascism, against racists, against imperialism, colonialism, like all of these things. Like he really believed in giving people a fair chance and a fair shot, and the little guy deserves just as much shot as some corporate monster. And he probably would have been much bigger, but he fought the channels all the time on censorship and things that they wouldn't show, and then they would take his ideas and water them down, and so he was not really well liked in the studio system because he was this guy who just made a lot of noise and wanted to
a strong voice.
Very, very much so. Yeah. So I'm trying to emulate the things about the Twilight Zone that I like the best, and I go back and forth. My best friend is a guy named Jeff Prather. And he always wants to take my stuff and turn it into like Creep Show or something like that, where there's it's a moral play at the end, where the bad guy's going to get their comeuppance. And I'm not a big fan of that particular type of storytelling. I like things that are a little bit more open-ended, a little bit more interpretive. Maybe they don't spell everything out for you. The Crispin Glover, had said about art. It's like the idea of art is you look at it and then it's your interpretation of it. It doesn't matter what the artist's intention was. Whatever you take from it, that's its power. And I kind of like that malleability when it comes to a story. Here's the thing that happens. It can be a metaphor for a lot of stuff, but it's whatever you're taking away from it. Like that's the important story. I'll give you the groundwork, but like you get to fill in like all the other like little kind of nooks and crannies and make that personally yours.
Yeah, and playing into it versus, like you said, your buddy that wants you to hammer it home on like, no, this is what I want you to take away. Like, that storytelling for me is the most fun because you have to do some of the work yourself. You're engaging with the audience as opposed to like, here's the good guy and here's the bad guy, and they fight, and then the bad guy loses. Like that's cool for my kids. I'm not 10 though, so I want something a little bit emotional complexity. Sure.
And the thing is too, I'm sure you've gotten this. You must have had this at some point in your life, where you realize that you watch movies differently than like civilians do, than regular people do. And I remember speaking to a friend one time about I had just seen I rewatched Fried Green Tomatoes.
Okay.
And it's this, middle-aged women, and like family drama, and I was, I think like 18 or 19. My mom had watched it when I was a kid, and then I watched it when I was older. And I was talking to him about how much I liked it. He's like, isn't it like a sad story? And I said, yeah. And he goes, why do you want to watch a movie and be sad? I was like, wait, what? Doesn't... I mean, that's what you watch movies for. Is for the emotions. You get like you're happy, you're sad, or you're laughing, or you're angry. Like that's what you get from it. And so you get. I'm sure you've had that as well, where you realize it's really important for you to understand, like, what did that one guy say, and what color shirt was he wearing when it happened? Like, did it change color? Did that reveal something about the character, and how that interlocked with another character? Whereas other people are like, I'm just waiting for stuff to explode. I'm just waiting for things to blow up, and then there'd be a car chase, and then I get out of there.
No, it sounds like you're describing. Okay, to say that I watched or at some point in my life. Okay, let's ask. How do you watch movies? Have you always looked at stuff differently and watched it from like a storyteller perspective, or did you grow into that?
I think I grew into it, but I think it was through like boredom, because I get really bored if I hear the same story, and I feel that this isn't even a dig. I think Hollywood makes a lot of its money telling the same story over and over again.
For
People are very comfortable with it. They want to relax at the end of the day. They want to see this guy and his girlfriend gets kidnapped, and then he's got to go save her, and there's obstacles, and then there's a car chase, and then things explode.
And then the hero learns to be themselves.
Yeah.
And you kind of
Yeah, exactly. And so I liked things that were just different and kind of strange, and so then that took me to watching kind of stranger movies. I remember being a kid and watching, things like Steel Magnolias or watching Glengarry Glen Ross. Things that were most of the time I didn't understand. Like Glengarry Glen Ross was over my head. I'm like, everyone's just swearing a lot.
Yeah.
But it was something different. And these complex characters, it's not always you're rooting for the good guy. A lot of times the good guy is also kind of the bad guy too.
Right.
I just rewatched Michael Clayton not long ago, and like that's one of the fun things about George Clooney's character in that. Like you're not sure which side of good and evil he's on. He's kind of straddling a line, and at some point he needs to make a decision, and that's usually really exciting for me. Or whenever you're watching the character who is an anti-hero, who's clearly like they're not even the hero of the story. They're the protagonist. They're the antagonist. They're going to die as a result of their things, and their friends are telling them like, get off the tracks. There's a train coming, and then they stay on the tracks and they get hit by the train. Like I'm fascinated by that when the story like surprises me or shocks me, because I'm sure you're probably the same way. If you go to see some mainstream movies, you're usually 2 steps ahead. You're like, I know where this is all going.
Well, there are tricks.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I was thinking multiple things while you were talking there. I feel like I've more recently changed the way I watch movies. Like I didn't necessarily always watch them with that critical eye, and in ways my parents now, whenever I go home and we're watching TV or watching a commercial, they're laughing at the joke of the commercial, and I'm like, I wonder how they shot that, or
what kind of lenses did they use for that? Was that a 16?
I'm like, that was a lot of camera movement on that. I wonder why. Like whatever. I'm just looking at lighting and like just random stuff, and then sometimes I'll be watching like very dramatic moments, and I'll be keeping in mind how much coverage they got on it. I'm like, whoa, they shot this on a wide, and they got a close here, and I'm like, they couldn't have shot that all at once.
Yeah.
And then I get impressed with the actors. I'm like, oh my gosh, the actor pulled it off. Because like continuity is big for me these days.
Yeah.
So I'm in awe of like actors that can pull off the performance on all those different. So I'm like just keeping track of like how are they shooting this? How like what's. So I'm kind of watching more for that almost.
Yeah.
I get caught up in the coverage and the frames and that kind of thing. But I do watch mainstream movies, specifically the Marvel movies.
Yeah, I know you're a big Marvel fan.
I'm a huge Marvel fan. And like there's a part of my brain I can just turn off and be like, this is my little kid version.
Yeah.
Growing up on Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just you go in. I stopped, like you prep yourself. Like you don't, like you stop watching the trailers. You stop. Like you kind of go in cold, not knowing what's going to happen. So you're not, because I've ruined movies before where I've overly analyzed trailers and watched all the news coverage, and then you go in, you hate it because you knew. I mean, because you looked it up.
Yeah.
All the moments that were going to happen. But I definitely enjoy the popcorn movies on occasion.
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
Oh well, I mean, I think you take something like big budget action movie can just surprise the hell out of you. And I think about Mad Max Fury Road. I've seen that movie probably 8 times, and I like 4 of those times it was literally one of those moments of like walking out of the theater like, do you guys want to go back and see another one? Do you want to watch it again? Because that was goddamn amazing. George Miller, who's like 80 years old.
Yeah,
who's just still has like a million tricks up his sleeve.
Coming off of Happy Feet or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Dancing penguins, and then I'm gonna have a guy with like a guitar that spouts fire.
Yeah.
All right, man.
I've only seen that movie twice. I gotta catch up on that. But no, it's good.
So good. I'll go watch it now if you want to.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
Okay. I don't know what we were talking about there, but
we're talking about
we're on writing at some point, but
writing and also like just movies, and like at what point like did you start watching movies differently? And yeah, I think it was like high school. Well, I don't know. Did you have kind of like a cultural awakening at some point? Where you went from where you started kind of exploring like, oh, who are the artists that I really like, or like when you started like watching movies and you started wondering about coverage and things like that. What kind of roads did that lead you down?
I don't know if I had.
Yeah.
Okay, like I was thinking about music. I think I was talking to somebody about music recently about I have my favorite band, and I researched like who the band members were.
Yeah.
But like I only ever did it for one band. I've never really done it for anybody else. So when I think about movies, it's kind of like Marvel.
Yeah.
It's kind of Marvel. I look into because it's my dream is to direct a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where do these directors come from? What did they make? What's their tone? How do they fit into their puzzle? And I kind of investigate kind of that side of things. But I don't know. I don't know if I don't. It sounds like you probably did it a lot more deeper than I have. But
Well, I mean, not just with movie
I
stuff.
feel like I need to do more homework. That's what it sounds like.
Well, that's the fun part. I don't know, like looking at like all the work out there. Like, I love that, you know. And there's thanks to the internet, there is no shortage. You can look at art all day, every day, and like never see the same thing twice. But when I was like starting in like middle school, a couple of my friends invited me to their church, and I hadn't gone to church as a kid, and so I went for like 3 or 4 years, and I had a great experience. Like, the people who ran it were fantastic. Okay. It was a Christian church, but they were pro LGBTQIA. They were pro-choice. You know, they were very liberal church. Mm-hmm. But I stopped going because I kind of just didn't buy it anymore. Mm-hmm. And so then it asked the question of like, well, what do I believe in? And so I got like into Buddhism, and I was reading like Jack Kerouac, and I was reading Neil Cassidy, and started then it was like, okay, well, where else can this kind of like Eastern philosophy kind of take me? Mm-hmm. And then it, like that spewed into music and art and everything else. And I think I really wanted to solidify just what I believed. I needed some sort of bedrock in my life. So if somebody comes up to you and asks you, like, "Hey, what do you believe in?" Like, I have something that I can say.
Yeah.
And yeah, that led me down to watching more complicated movies on subjects or from places that I've never been to or maybe hadn't thought of before. And they were always the most rewarding part was always coming back, watching a movie that was filmed in the 70s in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And the experiences that it's a life I don't know, but they're still living things that I do know.
Right.
Like jealousy or anger or hate or lust or whatever it happens to be. It's just like, oh yeah, I mean, that's communal. That's all of us. Yeah,
the human experience.
Yeah.
Right? There's always something to pull. You can pull anything from. Yeah.
And that was a very unifying feel. I think that was one of my bedrocks of like my belief structure is through art. Mm-hmm. Is just that like there's nobody that's so far gone that you can't possibly understand them. Like we can all understand one another pretty well, and it's not that hard. You usually just have to sit down with somebody one-on-one, and you sit and talk for a little while, and you can. Yeah,
people. But I mean, from what I've heard or witnessed, people are very what's prone to agreeableness. Is that not agreeable? When you put people together, there's this want of just wanting to get along with them.
Yeah,
like it's just kind of
some compatibility.
It's just you just kind of need it.
Yeah.
You don't want to fight. We don't like that kind of stuff. We just like it online, I guess.
Yeah.
But. Okay, so I was curious, I don't know if this is podcast worthy or if you want to talk about it, but it sounds like you did a lot of research on trying to figure out what you believe in.
Yeah.
What do you believe in? What did you discover through all that?
I discovered, first off, I usually believe that anyone's feelings, or how about they feel about things that are larger than them, is their spirituality. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a religious person or not, there's some level that on you that I think needs to think about things that are larger than you, be it just astrophysics, or if it's some sort of messiah that you follow. And on some level, I do have to say that I'm agnostic, because you take something as large as, like, let's say the universe, and I cannot describe half of the things that happen in the universe.
It's hard to even fathom the universe.
Exactly. Yeah. And so to say like, oh, I understand exactly who God is, and here's what he looks like, and he's got a kid, and here's like all like I don't I don't think I believe any of that stuff. So there could be a God out there. I don't think there is, though. Mm-hmm. I really do kind of try to live my life existentially. And I think Sartre, who wrote primarily in the 1960s through the 80s, mm-hmm. I think he had the best form of existentialism, or at least the thought that I grapple onto the most, which is that, yeah, life is meaningless. Like, you can do anything. You can do whatever you want to. But you have to make things important for you. So if building a house is important to you, that's great. Mm-hmm. You do that, and then you have to pump yourself up a little bit. Just like, I made this thing, and that's important to me, and so that makes my life good. Mm-hmm. And so that is really what I believe. I believe that you have to find the things in life that make you happy, and do them for the fact that you like doing them. And hopefully you're not a narcissist or a sociopath, and you only care about yourself, and and you're caring about other people as well. But you're building things, you're making things, or trying to help other people in some way. Like those are you go to sleep at night, and you have a clear conscience. You just feel good about that. Mm-hmm. So that is really what I believe.
Okay, yeah, that reminds me. Wait, I'm just going to pull it up really quick because I don't know if you. I don't know how on Instagram you are, but I started reading a book today, actually, that speaks to what you were saying. Yeah, Sam Harris. I'm reading Waking Up.
Oh, okay.
A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion.
Yeah, nice.
It was recommended to me, and I'm only 20 pages in, but the foundation of what he's saying is basically what you're saying. Yeah. It's like the thing about life is trying to find that underlying the through line of happiness, where you're kind of just like in this happiness lifeness. So kind of like by default, you're already happy living the way that you live, and you're kind of just taking things as they go, and you're already in this like default coasting of finding being one with who you are, and something weird. So I'm curious to that, like it's kind of the breaking down of the ego and like all this kind of stuff of.
Well,
it's gonna hurt my brain at some point, I'm sure.
I think about it a lot now too, because I have two kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Speaking of which, we are, for listeners, we're shooting in your garage.
My garage.
And if you hear anything coming up, like there's a running around.
There's a lot of squeaking. There's a squeaky toy, which, I mean, they're not baby. Why do they have a squeaky toy, for God's sakes?
Yeah, that. But yeah, okay, so you have children.
I have children, and my oldest, Nick, was fascinated by death at like 3 and asked a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And it is interesting when you're talking to a child. There's these big heady ideas that grown-ups have, but then when you have to explain them to a child, you have to get very rudimentary. You have to really speak in basic language.
Yeah. I don't have much experience with that, so that's. But yeah, please go on. It sounds like a fun challenge, if anything.
It really does force you to stretch, your like idea of like what really solidify what a thing is. Mm-hmm. And one of the things. I'm projecting down the road like, oh, we got maybe 5 more years, and then we'll be hitting them with like the hard philosophy, and like, okay, now we got to read some Steinbeck. We're gonna read My Travels with Charlie. We're gonna read some Hemingway, and we're gonna read some Sylvia Plath. It'll be great. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I want to impress upon them is that society has a bunch of things set in place. It has a life. Set up for you if you want to take it. The idea is you grow up, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you work, you retire, and then you die. Like
and plenty of those are even optional.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean all of it's optional.
Yeah.
And there is such a societal pressure to do all of those things. You know, like I'm in my 40s now, and I have friends who are also in their 40s who don't have kids. And I do my best, like, not to bring up the stuff because I know there are so many people who give that push. Just like, when are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna do the thing? And like, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a father, and I'll tell you, not everyone should be a parent.
or they even get bummed out because they did want, or they do, or it's not in the cards right now, or whatever the case may be. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be a touchy subject.
But it's, you know, there's so many people that I've spoken with or just read about, you know, people who do all that. They don't really have an idea of what they're going to do in life, and they feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm supposed to grow up, and I got the job, and I got married, and I got a kid, and now I'm middle-aged, and I'm miserable. And I think it really, so much of it comes down to, like, well, you didn't take the time to figure out who you are. What are the things that make your life good, and are you doing those things? You know, like, you have to make yourself happy. Otherwise, you're just going to drag down everybody all around you.
It's a tough thing. Like, I feel like that's kind of brought out a lot. Like the COVID time, the lockdown brought that out in a lot of people this year. Is you're not working, or you're at home all the time, either by yourself or with the same people. Yeah. And you just have a lot of that just headspace of just time to think. Yeah. And people are like, I don't want to go back to work, or they never stopped working to think about what they were even doing. And now is the time to think. And I guess I think about it in terms of, like, we chose a creative outlet kind of path. So we were searching for ourselves for purposes of, like, creative output early on in the process. So we're actively seeking who we are to put it out in our art. But most people are not that. So it's a weird thing to, I don't know how to encourage society to to start going within, but it's a weird situation.
It is, you know, the odd thing is too, I feel like so many people need to feel as though they look at creativity like it's magical.
It is weird. Creativity is weird.
It is very weird. And
I don't know where stuff comes from.
It just pops into your head, and you, like, get this idea, and then all of a sudden you manifest it and you make it into a thing. But I remember I did a sketch show when I was like 21. And it was at a theater, and then they were so we did regular plays and things like that, and the plays were all written. And then the owners were like, oh, we're also going to do this sketch show. So any of the actors, if you want to come over and you want to do on the sketch show, you can do that too. And so I was like, great. And so I started writing and acting. And I was telling the other actors, you should write your own stuff, because then you'll get on the show more. You get to act more. And they're literally, I mean, these are actors, these are creative people. And they said, like, oh, I'm not a writer. It's like, no, the only thing that makes a writer is somebody who writes. Like, that's it. Like, if you put anything on paper, congratulations, you're a writer. Yeah. But I think a lot of people feel like they have to take classes, or they have to do something special in order to be a creative person. Yeah. So you really don't. Like,
that's the whole industry in a nutshell, though, isn't it? Like, there's this mysticism that's laid over the whole process. Yeah. That scares people off before they even give it a shot, or they don't. I don't know. Like, I don't.
Oh no, it's the absolute truth. I think, you know, that's funny if you go back to, like, old world Hollywood, you know, like Jack Warner and, like, you know, back in the day. That was, I think, what made them so much money. It was just like, the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Like, we know what we're doing, you don't know. So just stay out and let us do the thing, and then give us $20, and we'll show you a movie. Where it's really, when it comes down to any creative pursuit, like any pursuit, like, you can pick up the basics pretty fast. Usually, you know, if it's something that you care about, it becomes a craft, and then you get better and better at that craft. But you never finish learning. You know, there's always something new, and you should always strive to be that perpetual student. So, like, you're always learning about the new technique or something different.
For sure. Well, I mean, that's the cool thing about being in film in the first place. It keeps it interesting. Is even when you do have all the tools, there's still a new story to apply it to. Yeah. new decisions to be made, new collaborations to kind of like, how is it working with this person? And like, it just, everything changes all the time. So even as good as you get, like it's still, I could imagine, it's interesting forever. So it's kind of like a cool deal.
Yeah, but I think what you said is exactly right, though. I think with the lockdown, a lot of people are forced to like look inside, and I think people are trying a lot of new things that they hadn't tried before as well. And I think that could really unlock a lot. And does seem to be this strange circadian rhythm that everyone is on, like. Everyone through the baking process. Everyone became a baker for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden, everyone was like redecorating their place. You know, like everyone started doing like they were all in the same cycle of things. But I do think there's probably a lot more people. You know, somebody picked up that guitar that they had in the back of the closet that they just hadn't used forever. You know, or like just started writing down stories or drawing or something like that.
Yeah, because I know you were. I mean, you didn't necessarily get any more time because of lockdown, right?
No.
Because See, I don't know if you had any chance of taking advantage of any situation. It felt like, okay, how was it for you? We can just get the COVID story.
I was working on a Disney Plus show,
right? Which is awesome.
Yeah, it was good. So like my first day was a Wednesday. I went in and we taped the show, and then the second day. They called me and said, hey, listen, you know, you can come into work if you want to. We don't have an audience, because I tell jokes in front of the audience. Like, we don't have an audience, so if you want to, you can come in, but you don't have to. And I said, I am not going to, because you guys have to pay me under contract anyway. And then I called my best friend, and I was like, let's go get drunk. We're going to get day drunk. I haven't done that because I have kids. I haven't done that in 12 years.
Yeah.
So we went out and we went drinking and we joked about it. Like, oh, it's coronavirus day, yay! And like, you know, we get to go have drinks. And then the next day was the exact same thing. Like, hey, we don't have an audience today. And then Sunday night got an email like, hey, we're shutting down production. And I feel like many other people, the first probably like 3 weeks to month were kind of awesome. They were kind of awesome because it's like most people want the world to stop for a little while so that you can take care of, like, you have like this laundry list like in the back of your head of stuff you want to do.
Sure. And I mean, for me, it wasn't awesome. But,
no.
But please.
Well, I was in a very good place because, like, family were very set. You know, we had investments. We were like, we weren't. It wasn't a horrible fear for us, and also the reality of the pandemic hadn't come to light yet.
It was very unknown.
It was very unknown. There were some cases, you know, like in Washington, but that was kind of it, you know, and it was kind of more happening overseas. And, you know, I remember SARS and avian flu and all those, and like they ended up just being kind of blips on the radar for, by and large, for where I lived. So I thought this was just going to be another one of those. And I was like, oh, it's a snow day for the next month. So great. There are these books that I want to read, and there are these movies that I want to watch, and like there's this idea that I've had banging around in my head. I'm going to knock that out real quick. So I was super prolific in like the first month, and I think I wrote 2 pilots, and then wrote like some stand-up bits, and then much like everyone else, I think there was like the crash.
Yeah, just reality setting in.
Reality really setting in that like, oh wow, I am scared every time I go to buy groceries. And like I have to wipe them down with bleach, you know, before I bring them into the house. I remember you posted on Facebook about like, hey, do I still need to be doing this? Or yeah, that's exactly what it was. Because that was the thing that was terrifying. The problem was getting worse and worse, and nobody had any answers. That was horrible because I think many people thought like, oh, you know, a couple weeks and we're back to work, and so now here we are, month 7 or 8, and you know, people are realizing like, oh. Even when they come out with a vaccine, we're probably still going to have to wear masks. So things are different now forever, potentially.
All right, so Night of Shorts night. We had a sound blip, so let me try to re-explain my version of Night of Shorts night.
Yeah.
For the people listening. I moved to LA, November 2018. I was researching any possibilities of like free events to meet other filmmakers, like-minded people, start connecting, and start doing my thing. And Night of Shorts night was like this little wacky event. Like I remember seeing the the banner that you make with a little shorts icon on there.
It's bikini briefs and a tuxedo.
Yeah. So I'm like, what is this thing? but I'm like, all right, cool, sure. Check it out, see what happens.
Yeah.
And so I showed up, and it's always nice having a venue where you can just meet other like-minded folk and watch some shorts, and the filmmakers are usually there.
Yeah.
I think most of them show up. But I guess it's a night, you screen shorts.
Yep.
People meet and mingle and then get kicked out.
The place we held it at for the longest time, the Parlor, was so strange because it was on Monday nights, and for some reason they were so strict about kicking us out at 10 o'clock. And it was a part sports bar, and so they would treat us as if we were like drunk, rowdy, like college basketball, fans or something like that. Everybody out! And it's all of these shrinking violet actor, artistic types that are like, why are you yelling so much? You don't need to. Just ask us to leave. And also, it was 10 o'clock. All bars are open until 2, except for this bar. It was a strange thing how it came about. So I had finished a short film, and my two good friends, Dave and James Cadelia, one is a DP and one's a director, they had finished a short film. And kind of as a joke, Dave said, all right, where are we going to show these? And, he said, we should show these in a bar someplace. And I thought, that's funny, I'll put 40% energy into this. And I went on, I don't remember if it was Twitter or Facebook, and just said hey, does anybody know a bar where I can show some shorts? And a woman who's an actress friend of mine named Jeannie Taylor had said, oh, there's this great place on Melrose, and I think it was called the Sandlot. And I was like, all right. So I called them up and was like, hey, I want to show some short films. Can I do that at your bar? And they said, yeah, we've got this back patio area, and it's got its own bar set up, and but you have to bring them on DVDs. Oh, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. So transferred them to DVDs, and my wife and I, we got a babysitter, and we invited a bunch of friends. And the night of, we showed up to the Sandlot, and the doors are locked, and the lights are out, and nobody's answering their phone. I don't know why. To this day, I have no idea what happened. And now my friends are starting to show up, and I'm starting to panic. I'm like, well, what am I going to tell everybody? Inexplicably, this place is closed. I double checked. It was Monday night, 8 o'clock. We're going to be at this place. And so my good friend Allison and my wife had said, hey, we'll go try and find another place. And honestly, I was kind of shitty. I was like, fine, go ahead, go.
Super skeptical. Yeah.
Super skeptical. I was like, yeah, you're going to find a bar on Melrose that's going to let us show our short films. Whatever. 2 minutes later, I get a text. Hey, we found a place. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So then I start ushering everybody down the street. It was this place called the Parlor. And when you walk in, it's this big open courtyard, and off to the right is one bar, and then off to the left is another bar that's kind of smaller and enclosed. And so they went in, and it doesn't hurt that it was my friend Allison and my wife are both super hot. So they went in and talked to the manager, and the manager was like, yeah, we'll open up this other bar, and we'll bring in a bartender for you and everything. For sure.
That's always helpful versus the...
or us. We walk in, hey, nobody's opening a bar for us. But... it was a Monday. From the manager's point of view, it made perfect sense because it's a Monday night. It's a slow night. Nothing's going on. This wasn't football season or basketball season or anything like that. And so, they were like, we've got 20 people who want to come drink. And the manager was like, great, come on. So we filed in there. We showed the shorts, and about halfway through, that same manager came up to me and said, hey, listen, this is pretty great. If you want to do this again, let me know. So then I sat down and I thought about it. I was like, okay, yeah. At that point, I was getting really frustrated with film festivals because film festivals are really expensive.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about film festivals. There is kind of this promise that you're going to send your film there, and it's going to get a great slot, and it's going to be seen by people, and then you'll be able to meet new people. And it a lot of times does not work out that way. You spend $65. And you send a ton of information to a place, and then you wait 3 months, and then you never hear from them, or your thing gets rejected, or even if you make it in, there's no guarantee as to when it's going to be shown.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be shown Tuesday at 1:00. In
1 a.m., 1 p.m. Which one? They're
Either
both
one.
bad.
Either are options.
Yeah.
And if if it's out of town, if it's far away, just to get anybody to leave their house is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I was dealing with that, and I thought like there should be a place where filmmakers can go and just show their work, and we'll talk afterwards. And it made sense being a stand-up comic because that's how every comedy show when you're starting off works. You just go to a bar and you say, hey, if I bring a microphone and a speaker, can we do stand-up here, next Tuesday? That's what every comic starts off doing. And this was the exact same thing. Like I picked an off night, which is a Monday. So like, most bars, their hype nights are like Thursday through Sunday. Monday, nothing's going on. I was like, look, I promoted it. I brought in people, and it ended up like becoming this thing that I really fell in love with.
And thus it was born.
There was just this place where you would get together, and it was the first Monday of every month. I would send out flyers,
and what year was this unofficial first one? Like when was that?
It was May of 2017.
Okay.
And it's funny, if you look at our flyer, there's a little ticket that'll say like the time.
Yeah.
There's also a series of numbers on the side, and that's the first date that we ever did it is in those numbers.
Okay. 'Cause I was digging through your Facebook to look for stuff, and the early editions, like they're even like subtitled names for some of them. It was like Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, and I'm like, wait, what week is this?
I did that. I was being very clever because like Empire Strikes Back, I did it twice because I did it as I think episode 2, and then I did it again as like episode 5.
Okay.
So the second one we did and the fifth one we did was like I was like, okay, Empire Strikes Back, because that was number 5 of the trilogy, but it was also the second one that I watched that was released.
Right.
So like it was convoluted. And then after a while, it was like, I'm just gonna number them.
Yeah.
So we started numbering them, but it was great because like I got to watch short films. I got to meet filmmakers, and then putting it together and hosting it. Like I'm a comic, so like that's my wheelhouse. That's just what I do. But the best part was usually after the films, because we would get done around 9:15, and then at that point, everyone's had a couple of drinks. They've been sitting next to the person for an hour or so, and we never showed that many shorts. Like that was the experimentation process. Like if you show 10, do you show like 2? Like how many do you show?
Because the official start time of the event was typically 8?
The doors would open at 8.
Okay.
And then because it's Los Angeles, everyone got there at like 8:30.
Yeah.
So then we would start around 8:30, 8:45, and then I would show like
half an hour's worth or whatever.
Showed about half an hour worth, and then after that, people got to mingle, and it was nice because there's a lot of events that happen in Los Angeles that are networking events. But you just walk in and you're just a person, and then there's 100 other people who are just
there's
sitting
no
there.
context,
And you have to walk up like, what do you do and what are you here for? Like, oh, okay, cool. This way it was like, oh, there's the actors and there's the filmmaker and they're right over there, and like you've seen their stuff, and like you can go talk to them and they can talk to you. And the proudest moments I've had is when people have connected from Night of Shorts Night and gone on to make their own thing, and it's happened 4 or 5 times now, and I'm delighted every time it happens.
Warms your heart.
Warms my heart.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to dig into, because I used to back in Reno, like I ran the Renault Film Collective, and I'm well aware of what it takes to corral people together and kind of support other artists and prop them up and help them with some sort of step in their process and all that kind of stuff. So I was curious as to, you said May 2017.
Yeah.
So it almost made it 3 years.
Yeah.
2.5 years. I don't know.
It was 3 years because our last show. Well, strangely, we had 2 last shows. The manager who was working at the Parlor, he moved to Austin, And then the new managers that came in did not understand the Night of Shorts Night at all. They didn't get it.
They looked at the poster and
They're like, what is this? But they were a sports bar, and that's where they made all their money, sports bars. And so, is that going to mess you up? Should I turn? Okay.
It's fine.
They made their money, it was a sports bar, and that's where they made their money. And so these artists coming in once a month to show their shorts, it was just a headache for them. So they didn't want to do it anymore. So we had our last show in January. No, our last show was in December. And then at that point, we'd been running for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm just going to let it go. We had a good run. It was a couple of years. I met a lot of great people. That's fine. We're finished. And then one of the guys who attended Night of Shorts Night said, hey, a buddy of mine just bought a bar. Do you want to maybe do it over there? And I was like, oh, I'll go talk to the guy. And I went, and the bar was beautiful. It's this place called Night Night Bar. So it worked with the name theme as well, Night of Shorts Night at Night Night Bar. I'm like, that's great. It was downtown. It was a really cool space. And we did, so I talked to the guy, and he was into it. He loved it. And so we did 2 shows. We did a show in January and a show in February. They went off really well. I was so happy.
I don't feel like I made it out to those ones.
Yeah, it's, well, you know what? I had posted a whole bunch of things saying the show was over. And I said goodbye to everybody. Yeah. And then these 2 shows popped up. And I was like, I guess we're going to do it here now? Because I was ready to just wash my hands of it and just leave it behind. Yeah. But it found this new life. And so we did 2 shows there. It was terrific. And then the lockdown happened. So, and same thing. And then I missed a month. It was, I think March, we didn't do anything. And there was that same decision too. It was like, well, can I do the show online?
Right.
And some people were trying to do that. Watching stuff via Zoom when you're on the call, it's like, it's terrible. It's a weird process. It's a very strange process.
But before we jump into that and the evolution through lockdown, I am curious about. All right, I want to get a sense of where the fulfillment came in, because you kind of hinted at the fact of like when people got to meet together and meeting other filmmakers is cool, of course, but like my one experience putting up a short there was probably my least favorite time at the thing.
Yeah,
I much preferred. Because I made the mistake of inviting friends to the event. I feel like that was a mistake.
Really?
Yes. Because I was stuck entertaining the people I asked to come out, and I didn't get a chance to meet anybody new, even though my thing had screened. So I used it as an excuse to hang out.
Yeah.
And it was cool seeing people, but then I was like, oh, I just saw the same people I already knew, and I showed it. So I usually get more enjoyment just going there to watch and having no pressure of like I'm just here by myself or whatever the case may be. But that was like a weird thing to
That's funny.
So then when I think about you as a host, like I know that you would always make a good effort of coming to say hi. You'll say a couple of things that make sure that I know that you've been keeping up. And you're like, oh, how's the thing going? And like, oh, sweet, he knows who I am.
Yeah.
And he's keeping up. That's cool.
Yeah.
So that was always very much appreciated. But then, of course, you got to get back to your thing and talk to this other person that came in. So I don't know, like I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One thing was how many shorts you're being sent, how that process is, watching all the stuff, selecting and coordinating with the filmmakers to make sure they're going to be there.
Yeah.
And then actually like gathering like the nitty gritty of like getting the files.
Yeah.
And then being there hosting, and how I'm always curious about how you feel at the end of the night. Like, is it like that all that kind of stuff? It's very interesting to me.
Well, I'll take it through like the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
And it did evolve over time. The thing that was so difficult, first off, the computer at the Parlor, it was like a Dell computer from like 1994. It was just the worst computer, terrible setup. And so at first we were burning DVDs and like that took forever. And then we realized like, no, we can actually put it through, like just stick a thumb drive in and we can actually watch it that way. And I was very fortunate because I got a partner, James Cadelia. He was able to take care of a lot of the technical stuff. So people would still send me files. And luckily, you know, Facebook started in, I think, 2006 or 2008, something like that. So at this point, people are fairly tech savvy when it comes to, like, sending videos.
Yeah, especially people in the film industry.
Exactly. Yeah. So getting the videos was never too big a problem. What I started doing fairly early on that I think now is really picking up some steam is I just went back to email lists. Like, I just knew a bunch of filmmakers and I knew a bunch of actors. And so I tried not to bother anybody. I didn't want to send a bunch of emails. But I just sent emails, and then I put it out on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter and just said, like, hey, send me your videos if you want to see something. And people are...
If you want to see something, or if you want to get it screened.
If you want to get it screened, if you want to have it shown someplace.
Yeah.
People were, like, at first really, really... They were convinced that I was going to screw them over somehow. Like, there was that usually getting to know, like, a new filmmaker was pretty tough because they thought that I was going to steal their work. Some people had in the past, people had stolen their work. They were really skittish. So it was an over-explanation. You have, like, no, this is a free show. The audience comes in for free. You guys... And then people always wonder, well, how do you make money? Like, I don't make any money. Like, there's no money in this. Like, I just get to...
Like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah, exactly. That was people's thing. Like, why are you doing it then? It was like, because I get to meet people, and, like, we get to watch shorts. Like, it's a fun night. Like, that's why you do it. So there was, like, getting that. And then I did find really early on, it was like 95% of the people sending me stuff were all white dudes. So, like, to be more inclusive, like, I found out I really had to, like, go out and find people. Like, so if somebody posted, like, a video, I would go after them and be like, hey, listen, I got this thing. Do you want to show it? And the thing that became the hardest was, like, getting women then. Because as a guy approaching somebody on the internet and be like, hey, do you want to show your thing? All of them were convinced I just wanted to have sex with them. And it took so long to, like, no, I'm married. I got a wife. I'm happy. It took so long to convince people, like, no, we're just showing this for fun.
There's definitely an art to that side of things with, I don't know, because I don't feel like I ever had that issue. It's like a weird, I was going to say, I spent a lot of time, let's say in college, practicing how to talk to women. And, like, I wanted, because, like, all through high school and stuff, like, I just couldn't talk to girls at all.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what, I just want to be the type of guy that can talk to a girl and it just be, like, a normal thing. Like, that was, like, a goal of mine for a long time.
Yeah.
And then, like, through, I don't know, different college club, like running club and kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I kind of developed a, like, oh yeah, like, we run, all right, sweet, I have game nights, and you can invite, like, it felt natural progressions to, like, all right, I can invite you over, it's not weird. And then it translates to the film stuff too, like getting, because, like, there is that, it takes an effort to diversify, let's just say, even your crew and cast. Like, that's an effort. Otherwise, you get the defaults, which...
Straight white dude.
It's just all the dudes.
It's so many dudes. So many dudes.
So, yeah. So I guess did you have much success with getting better at that? Or
I finally did. Yeah, like the longer we did it, and when somebody was able to go someplace and actually see pictures and see like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this isn't just some creepy guy. Like, come over to my basement. You know, like it was an actual. So the longer we did it, the easier it became. Yeah, and then. And also, you know, especially filmmakers who've been here for a while, like, they would talk to their friends. And it's like, then their friends would, you know, can I pass this information along? I was like, absolutely, sure. And then so people would contact me that way. But it's always been me chasing down shorts. Because I would get, for each month, probably 10 to 15 submissions.
Because again, you're screening, depending on length, like maybe 5 to 7 shorts.
Yeah.
So then...
And what's hard is, you need them to be a certain length. You know, if they were over 15 minutes, they were killers. Like, that was really my cutoff. You know, there was a few exceptions. There was a woman named Carolyn Hayes. I showed her short, and it was like 21 minutes because it was meant to be a pilot. And I was really on the fence, but it was very good. So I'm like, all right, cool, we'll do that one. But yeah, what is tough is, like, you needed shorts that were very short, at least semi-technically proficient. and not horribly offensive. And now my whole thing, when we first started,
just a little offensive.
A little offensive. It's not that. It's got to be a little offensive. But when we first started doing it, I wanted to invite everybody. I was like, let's invite everybody. And if your short sucks, then it should be shown. And you should know, because that's when you realize it sucks.
It's a learning experience.
Very much so. I mean, I'm sure you've had the experience where you've edited something so much you can't tell one frame from the next, and you're thinking like, oh, it's all done, and then you have somebody over your shoulder watching it with you, and then that's when you see all the mistakes. You're like, oh, this is too long, or I should have added music here, or like, this is stupid, what am I doing? So that's the kind of experience that I wanted for people. Like, come watch your thing, and then you will really see in front of a live audience. That's how you learn what's funny, what's too long, what's sad.
Yeah, it always felt like it's like a nice kind of like safe space environment. It's kind of how I mean, that's
good. That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to curate, right?
That's absolutely what I was trying to curate. Yeah. And so, some people would, it got to the point I wanted to grow the audience. And so, it took James, my partner, to say, he's like, well, you have to show better shorts then. And I was like, all right, fine. Because, I mean, literally, there was some shorts that we were showing, somebody had shot like on their flip phone or something. It's like, that's good that they're making stuff, but we need to have a certain level that people come to expect when they come out.
And that would increase like people returning for the next month, like the retention, I guess, would be better
if you had to sit through like 3 horrible ones.
Well, I guess because again, like me, I was there to meet the filmmaker. I didn't even really care what was being shown. I'm like, sweet, there's people here to talk to. Cool. But
I was gonna say, Spencer Whitesell is a guy who shows. He has this series called Halloweeners, and he would always say like, the first half hour was the absolute worst because you come in and nobody knows anybody, and then you watch the shorts, and that's pretty good, and then the last bit was like, that's why people came, because the last like half hour, 45 minutes was, now we're done with the shorts, everyone's just drinking, hanging out, and then you get to go meet the people who made that stuff, and like that was the most fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, if the objective, because I guess the idea would be you want people to be entertained. I mean, everybody wants their short to be entertaining, but because I guess the other thing would be like if the short were at a certain production value, then by default it's kind of like it might have more hands in the production too, and that by default would bring more people to the thing. So kind of like it's like a self-fulfilling. Too,
very much so. But I also wanted. I mean, I still think there should be a place where performers can get together and they don't get gouged for it. Like so much of the film industry passes the money along to the people who are at the bottom. Like the actors and the filmmakers end up having to pay through the nose in order for like the Santa Monica Film Festival to happen. Because you get into the arts and you realize like there's not a ton of money in it a lot of times, especially when you're starting at the bottom. And it's like there should be a place where we just all get together. We'll show each other shorts, and then we'll have a couple of beers, and I get to know you.
Yeah, it's nice and approachable.
Yeah,
versus the how did I describe it earlier? Like there's this veneer of just the Hollywood dazzle and show where it's like no, like this is real. We're all real. We're all making stuff.
We're all just making stuff. We're just getting better at our craft, man. And but I do have to say, like, corralling the filmmakers at times was exceedingly difficult because a lot of them are artists, and they work on their own schedule. And like, I will send them an email on a Monday, and it's like, hey, you want to show your thing next week? And then 5 days later, I'm sending multiple emails and texts like, did you get anything? Are you going to be there? Are you going to show up? But like by and large, it was an absolute blast. Like I loved it. But then it was up to me. Like I was also the graphic designer, so I had to come up with like the card, the information. So I changed that every month. Would send that out, and then I needed to document it more. And so then I started bringing my camera, and so I was like, I'll take photographs as well. And I brought my high-end, my nice-looking camera, got some really good pictures, showed everyone just having a good time, and like that was another thing I did. And then I also wanted to do like a giveaway,
Right.
And so I think you were probably there before that. Because
Maybe.
the transition happened, I think, later. But I wanted to do giveaways, and I thought a funny giveaway was giving away DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in SAG, and so you get the screener DVDs, and the DVDs are like, most people are throwing them out at this point. So I thought it was funny to give them out.
Yeah.
And you can get them at the store for like $1.
Yeah, you're giving away those bargain bin kind of.
Yeah.
Or it was a very. There was like maybe. I guess whenever I would see the prizes, like there's probably maybe one that I'm like, all right, sweet, I have a Blu-ray player, and like I'll probably watch that if I want it. But the other ones are like it's just like a joke gift. So yeah.
Well, I contacted
Warner Brothers.
I contacted 3 different places. Or I contacted 5 places, and then 3 places ended up just sending me stuff. Warner Brothers sent me a huge box. And they asked me they said, do you want like newer movies or older movies? And I was like, whatever you want to send me, that's fine. And they sent me like Laurel and Hardy movies and like Buster Keaton movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, cool. And they just these weird like hodgepodge of like B movies that never made it, like back in the 50s. Mm-hmm. It's like, great, okay, we're going to give these away. And some people, like, it really surprised me. They got super excited over like Laurel and Hardy. Great, this is for you, man.
People don't often have a chance to win something.
Yeah,
so,
and I think Warner Brothers was excited because they got to like clear out their garage. Send the DVDs, get rid of them.
Yeah, this guy.
But yeah, it was so much fun, and yeah, getting to know people was the absolute best part of it.
Not to pick favorites or anything, but I'm gonna ask you to pick a favorite.
Okay. There was a young visionary filmmaker named Eddie Virgil.
Oh, please, Virgil.
He touched me.
Oi. So, it's like when you talk about the higher production value stuff, or maybe even something that you were a fan of the filmmaker, and you were stoked to get them in the room. Like, is there anybody that stands out you want to give a shout out to? From like, it was sweet to get this short lined up. I
mentioned him already, but Spencer Whitesell, he does a series called Halloweeners. Check it out; it's on YouTube. They start off when he originally did it. I think the episodes were like 5 minutes, and then they slowly ramped up, and I think they did a full half-hour version. Mm-hmm. And then they started doing these really bite-sized ones that were like 60 seconds long. So like he's really played with it, but it's him, Megan Lewis, and Charlie Sanchez, like the 3 main characters. And all of them are just terrific actors, and they're terrific improvisers. And you can tell they just legitimately like each other. They have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's, really, really shot well. The DP's name is Tristan, and I can't think of his last name to save my life. But he's a really good filmmaker. Spencer writes and edits everything as well. Mm-hmm. He does such a great job. And what's more is he's just the sweetest guy too. He's really, really nice.
Yeah, because I mean I've worked with Spencer a couple times, and we met at the night of shorts night. Yeah, no, for sure. Spencer's awesome. Shout out to Spencer and the team. So okay, so was he one that you had to kind of like hound down and be like, yo, this is a thing I want to... Because I know when I first showed up, you were like in the middle of some sort of spanning, like you were screening all the episodes, like 1 episode a month. Yeah. So I don't know if that was like pitched to him. You're like, yo, I like your series, or yo, what's going... I don't know. I don't know if you say yo. Or...
I say yo all the time. Yo, is this cool, yo? Right up, fam. No, I went to him, and he had sent me, I believe he found me on social media somehow. Okay. And he sent me the first one, and I loved it. I was like, this is hilarious. And it was literally, it's 2 guys talking in a room. That's all it is. Yeah. And I think it was 5 shots. That was it. So funny, and the guys were so good, and it's really well done. And he's like, yeah, I have this web series. And I watched the first one, and I fell out, and was like, how many more of these do you have? And he's like, we have like 7 right now. And I was like, all right, can I show 1 each month? And he was like beside himself. He's like, yes, great, that sounds terrific. So, and then I got to meet him, and he was, fantastic. So there have been a couple of like that. There was another great series. Oh my God. Amy Vorpal and Shireen Najafi. Yeah, Shireen Najafi. They did a series called Untidy that was kind of making fun of Marie Kondo and like cleaning. And it was this couple, and they invite this woman to like help them declutter their life, and both of them were just hilarious, really, really funny. I'd known Amy for a long time before that. Shireen, I didn't know at all though, but like I was able to bring them on. They were terrific. And then other like yourself as well. Honestly, like I find you and I feel like are cut from the same cloth, just because. Putting together the Renault Film Collective, like that's not nothing.
No,
like,
for sure.
Like I think being those people who walk into a space and realize like something's missing. Like, okay, we should all get together. So I'll do that. Being a community organizer, it takes a ton of work, but it's super rewarding.
No, I agree with the cut from the same cloth there. That's why I like you so much. But I guess I was worried. Yeah, the short film that I screened, I'm like, don't bring up that short film, please.
Why not?
That was before. I'm just kidding. No, it's a fine. I screened my short Schrodinger's Nostalgia, and that wasn't okay. I was just whatever. I had made plenty of stuff after that like wasn't done or whatever. So that was the most recent thing that was completed. So all right, so you can screen this one, even though it's.
I thought it was great.
Yeah,
it was good.
It's good.
And
it's
the same
good.
thing. Like it was. Good. I think you were really smart about it too. And that was the thing that I have found. I don't know if it's this generation of filmmakers or if it's kind of always been there, but you find that the best filmmakers or the most effective filmmakers are the ones who typically kind of look around themselves first. Like, what do we have? All right, we have this stuff. Okay, well then let's make a story with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get it done.
If you want to get it done, exactly. And you have that was a really smart short because it's three guys sitting around a poker table, and it's talking, and then you were able to play with a lot of the elements in it. So it was like, all right, cool, I get this guy.
Yeah, and that one, I guess, to talk about that short a tiny bit, that one for me was one of the first times that I directed somebody else's writing too. Like I didn't write that short, and then it was my first time working with a production designer too. Like I wanted to incorporate, like in the zero budget world, it's hard to land a production designer to get a whole room designed for you. But I mean, this was in Reno still, and I met this awesome young gal, Hannah Sproul at the time. I don't know if she's Hannah Sproul anymore. Sorry, Hannah. And that was cool having a production designer for the first time. Like that room, like we're playing it as a basement, kind of like the classic basement the guy hang spot, and we redecorated like this little den nook into this whole space. So we actually built the space like for the first time, and I was like, "Sweet, this is cool." So I was more, for me, it's more about all the pieces coming together and like working with a couple of new actors for their first time, giving an actor that I'm a big fan of a shot at the main character. Like all that stuff plays into it for me is the fun stuff. Yeah. The actual short itself, I'm like, it's not technically the eddiness that I'm trying to put forward these days, but whatever.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's one of the tough things about being a craftsman is the fact that that like whatever you've just made, you will hate eventually because you're gonna learn something new. You're gonna.
I mean, I don't hate it.
I
don't hate it.
My hatred runs deep for my stuff then, because like whenever I make something, I'm like, oh, I'm in love with it for a day. And then I start watching it. I'm like, I should have done that. And I think, knowing what I know now, I would go back and change these things. And like, I think that just comes from like you're honing your craft. You're always finding something new or something like you can improve upon.
Yeah, growing too fast, too quickly, and then you give it 6 months. You're like, oh,
yeah.
I learned a lot of new tricks since that last one.
Exactly.
And correction on myself right now. Hannah Sproul is now Hannah Knapp.
Hey, congratulations, Hannah.
Yes, congrats. All right, great. Cool. Any other highlights on the
there was a bunch. The most fun thing about doing the Night of Shorts night is I watched so many shorts. I watched an incredible amount of short films, and learned so much just by watching.
Yeah, it's an educational process.
100%. Yeah. And there were still people who you could tell had no money but still producing incredible work, and I had a really bad experience with a guy I owned a production company with. And he never wanted to film anything unless he could bring it like a 2-ton grip truck. And, had all of like the special lights and dolly tracks. And like, he wanted all of these toys. And I was like, we don't need all the toys. And you really don't. To make a good film, you don't need a lot of stuff. You need a halfway decent camera. You need some recording equipment. You need good actors and a rad story. That's really it. It's kind of all you need.
Yeah.
So I saw that time and time again. I was just so inspired by some of these stuff that was coming in because you could tell like a lot of these people had no money, but they were still cranking out rad stuff.
Yeah, it gets the creative juices flowing for
Very
sure.
much so, yeah. And then a lot of times you get to meet them. And by and large, most people were pretty cool. Most people were pretty happy and kind of forthright, and were excited to kind of do it. You did get the errant person who was very... You could tell that they were doing me a favor by showing their shorts. And it was like, all right, guy, I get you. You enjoy the bar.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But by and large, everyone was we had a terrific time.
Great. I was going to look at my list. I have a list of stuff to talk about. But let's go into where it is now. Like you said, there's this weird evolutionary phase, which I feel like it kind of grew into it almost naturally because of the state of the Parlor in general. Like you lost the main space that you had for the years, got this new spot kind of out of nowhere, but then lockdown, and then now it's like, all right, how does you were talking about it? How does this continue? Is it virtual? Like, what's going on?
Well, am I going to show shorts? And I didn't want to program and show shorts online via Zoom because I was like, nobody's going to like that. I wouldn't watch that. So then I was like, okay, well, what if it becomes like a reading thing? So now, we still get to bring together the actors. We have writers who probably want their stuff performed, but they, maybe don't have access. And so then it became the Night of Shorts night, short reading night. So now it's, like I collect the scripts from people and we do 4. So it's, the whole thing is about 45 minutes long. It's a much shorter night. And we get together via Zoom, and I try and run it less like a Zoom meeting and more like a show. So I will, I'll do like a little bit of stand-up beforehand. I wear a crazy outfit, and then do a big introduction to each one of the writers, and then we'll go into the reading itself. So it has been a lot of fun. It's been terrific.
I'll do a brief recap. So. You talked to Mark Duplass. 2017. You spent 3 months kind of going back and forth with a script. You've written plenty of scripts before. You've written multiple features. This time you're going at it with the idea of, I have very limited budget. You're writing for it to be producible by you. Are you acting? Are you planning on acting in this thing?
Yeah. Okay. It was also going to be a vehicle for me to
and direct.
All
right. Write, direct, act, produce, all that stuff. All right, so that's the mindset of the writing. I think were we talking pre-production?
We just got into pre-production. You asked about the camera.
Yeah.
So when my production company closed, the camera that we had was a Canon 7D. It was Mark II, I believe. And so like I had that, and I had like I think I had 3 lenses. There was, like the crazy telephoto one that's like the, 70 to 200. Excuse me. And then I had like plunked down some money to get like a really decent like lens. It was like a 17 to 55. And then I had like a pancake like 50 millimeter lens that were just like, they're $100.
Yeah. The nifty 50.
Nifty 50, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I had that, and then for audio, I have these microphones. We talked about this before the recording started. These microphones that would actually click right into your cell phone, and then there was an app you downloaded for $5, and you could record. So you got your lav mic that way. And then I know a sound guy, and I asked him just like, what's a cheap mic that I can get? And he pointed me this $250 microphone, and then I had like a little Zoom recorder like this. And you can plug into there, and so it was like, great, there's my sound. And then I ordered, I think almost all of my wardrobe was either from Goodwill or from Amazon. And so I had to get all the actors' sizes, and I had to get all that, and then I would have them come over to the house, try it on, or I would go to their house, have them try it on, make sure it worked. And then it came to, I had to build props. Can I get one of the props? It's my favorite.
Can you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I have to disconnect.
So I'll just narrate as you walk over.
Okay, good.
All right. So Eric is walking across the room. He scampers lightly. He grunts as he picks this thing up. He's walking over. It's very shiny. It's wrapped. It's very plastic.
This is my bale of marijuana. It's my weed box. So I had to make 20 of these. So
okay.
I went and got 20 boxes, and then I got a bunch of moss from, please.
Oh, if I may, yeah.
I got a bunch of hobby moss, and I sprayed it on there, and then glued it on, and then wrapped it with saran wrap. And here's how effective it was. I did that, and then I also did 50. Yep, there it is. I have a tutorial on how to make these too. I made 50 packages of cocaine, which was like corn flour that I put and then wrapped up and everything. And we shot at my friend's house in his basement. And when we were loading in, somebody must have seen us go in. Because we loaded in, we shot, got all of our stuff, and then we packed up like all of the kind of expensive equipment. But a bunch of the stuff, he's one of my best friends. I was like, I'm going to leave some of the stuff in the garage. So the next morning, I get a text from him at like 7 a.m. And it's a picture of his garage, and somebody has like ripped the door open. Now, I will say, his door was like already kind of falling apart. But somebody ripped the door open, and they stole all of our props, our drug props, thinking that they were real. And I so badly wanted to be there when somebody cut open some some flour and took a line or something like that.
That's crazy.
I couldn't believe it, man. So they stole some of the clothes, some of the costumes that we left behind as well. But luckily, like they didn't get anything that was like irreplaceable.
Nice.
But yeah, built all the props, set all that stuff, location scout for everything.
How large was the cast? You mentioned this process of the costumes. Like I'm trying to imagine what scale.
There was really main characters are probably like six main characters, but we did have a couple of like ancillary, like one-offs, one-liners here and there, things like that.
Yeah, your day players or
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So luckily, like I said,
it sounds like a sizable sizable workload for such a production.
It was. I was also really careful too, though, because I knew how many lav mics we had, and so I couldn't write any scenes that had more than two, maybe a third person in it, though. So every time there's a scene that we would shoot, I was always very, very acutely aware of the fact that like there's going to be two people because we only have two microphones, so like that's all we're going to get.
Yeah.
But like luckily we got away with everything fairly well, and I think just because they maybe felt bad for me, I got some really good actors. So
they felt bad for you.
I think they were.
You
just
mean
like,
because they respected you?
No. I'd like to believe that, but I think the truth of the matter was probably
no. People don't show up because they feel bad. I don't think that's a thing people do.
I think you're right.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
But yeah, we went into production. We shot. I had to be in the production manager as well, and like see what time we were shooting and get everything together. That was the biggest. Oh God! I mean, when you're shooting low budget, no budget, everything counts so much. If you forget a roll of tape, well, you're screwed. You can't work that tape because you don't have the tape. You have to make sure you have everything. You have to be really diligent about it. And that was the thing where I would just always just have a piece of like lead in my gut, just like if I forget anything, we are just.
Yeah.
And it happened once or twice where we would show up to set, be ready to go, and it's just like, oh, we don't have like the Zoom recorder. I'm like, oh, hang on, everybody wait, I'll be right back. Drive to my house, come back. But yeah, I ended up we shot, and I made it a point to, one, to feed everybody, and two, to shoot as fast as we could. I didn't want anyone sitting around. I didn't want anyone to devote like 8 hours of their day. Like that was too much. It was like, let's shoot in like 4-hour blocks. So then that way, you know, it's not your entire Saturday, your whole Sunday.
Yeah. You're being very respectful of people's time.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like I said, we got 95 pages shot. And
out of
107.
Okay.
So we're at this point now, like all the tough stuff has been shot. Like we did the car chases, we did the car crushing, we like all of that stuff.
All the money shots.
All the money shots are all done. But so we have about 7 pages of me kind of, outside doing stuff. There's a small percentage of like, insert shots that we have to get. But there are 2 scenes where it's actors interacting without masks. And for a long time, I just wouldn't tackle it because I was like, I'm not going to.
Yeah, it's not time for that yet.
Now I think we're getting to a place, as we'd mentioned before, we're getting to a place where I think you can do it safely. If everyone's being careful, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm assuming that the crew size is already limited in that situation anyway. Because I mean, I've shot a few short films since COVID where it's like, oh, it's either exterior or it's a very limited amount of time, and it's just like me as the director holding the boom mic and booming, and then the DP, and we're both masked while they're acting. And like, there's just
it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, versus like having the full production where there's 10 people crowded and nobody's wearing, like, of course, so it's probably possible at this point, but
and like, luckily I've had those talks like with my actors, like, are you cool, are you okay with this? And I think luckily all of the people who are part of our production are all equally taking it seriously.
So how long has the filming been going? Like, when was first day versus
the first unofficial day was the DP and I going up to Bakersfield and just getting like B-roll.
Okay, I don't count that.
Yeah, most people don't. So that was...
That's not going to make the cut. I'm just kidding.
That was probably December of 2018.
Okay.
So then, we spent all of 2019 getting most of it. And then I figured we'd be done. I was really hoping we would be finished in like March. But of course, then the lockdown happened. There was a couple of times where like I could have shot in January and was like, we'll save that for next week. And oh boy, going back.
That reminds me of when people say, because let's say there's a mentality that people have sometimes where it's there's always next time, or we can always do this another time. It's like, no, like I always push for like as soon as we can. It's like, are you available? Like what we just did for this podcast. You said Monday, Tuesday, or like Friday or Thursday. Yeah. I'm like, all right, let's just do it Monday because if that falls through, we know we have Tuesday and the other day.
Yeah.
So, because there's times like, not to put Spencer under the bus here. No, it was like easy stuff. Like you're gonna meet up for coffee.
Yeah.
And then the next day there's a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we cancel coffee because of some lame reason. And it's like, oh, now I haven't seen you for 8 months now, buddy. Like that was like our chance, and you never know.
You never know what tomorrow's going to bring, man.
Yeah.
And so
here we are.
Here we are. And so I'm certainly, kicking myself quite a bit because like, oh man, we could.
Yeah, not to rub it in. But,
no, it's fine. Luckily, I mean, as you know, with post, my plan always was that I'm a good enough editor to where I can get a string out. I can at least sync everything and get kind of like, here's the general story.
Yeah.
And then take that to a real editor.
Yeah,
and be like, now make this look pretty. Because that's what I found. Like, everybody in the entertainment business, like, on some level loves doing what they do, but there's always a little extra that they hate doing. That, and I think for editors, a big part of it,
the assistant editor position,
yeah,
like just syncing and
they don't want to have to do all that stuff, and then kind of put it together. Like that's all the boring stuff. The stuff that they love doing is when moving this. Oh, this should go here. We should switch to this shot before this one. Like that's the stuff that they love doing. So great. Yeah, well, absolutely. I'm going to get it into this place. My plan was originally I was going to get it to this place on my own, and then also because of the pandemic, I have a couple of friends, and one was this young woman, and she had moved to Los Angeles and been here about 2 years, I want to say, to be an editor. Jobs were kind of starting to happen, and then everything stopped.
Yeah.
And so I had asked her, I was like, she's in a studio apartment with her boyfriend, and they're just doing nothing. They're just bored. I was like, well, if you want something to do, if you want to work on my film, and she was delighted at the idea. So her name's Laura Dern. Laura Dern.
Laura Dern.
Her name is Laura Dern. Her career is taking a really weird direction. She decided she's going to go into editing now. No, Laura Dern. And she's been doing a terrific job. She's absolutely killing it. So
Nice.
I'm so thankful.
Yeah, stuff pops up like that, and it's kind of nice. It's a win-win. So, all right. How are you managing continuity with cast and stuff? Has that been easy enough to manage? Like, nobody's going through any. Cause like, I'm sure your hair is probably easy enough to maintain in a certain, and you go probably clean shaven for your character.
Yeah.
So that's like that seems easy to me, and hopefully nobody's like. I don't know. Like I just think about even just weekends apart. When in my early days, when it's like an actor gets a haircut in the middle of a week, and I'm like, we just shot.
Yeah.
We're shooting 2 weekends. How could you get a haircut in between, or gaining weight because of the pandemic? Like there's all sorts of weird stuff that's going on.
Yeah, 100%. There is all sorts of weird stuff, and by and large, like I said, over the course of the year, we shot with one guy in January, then we shot him again in like December. And I just got lucky. And also, I think it's easier with a dude too, because for the most part, like guys just usually have like one haircut that they get in high school, and then they're just like, "That's my haircut forever."
Right.
And so yeah, that was his deal as well. Mine was actually the most difficult because the sides of my head were shaved, and I had lines in them, and then I had a mullet. Now the mullet was like a hairpiece that I would attach.
Yeah.
But there is actually one scene in the film where like we got done with production, we wrapped everything up, and I say goodbye to everybody, and then I go and I look at myself in the mirror and realize I didn't shave the lines into. So there is one scene in the movie where I was the one who screwed up. But by and large, everyone else just kind of stayed the same looking, And I asked people to be cognizant of it.
Yeah.
But
it's all you can do, really.
Yeah, but like I didn't worry about it too much. One of the nice things, going back to Mark Duplass, one of the nice things about him was, he kind of said like, don't be afraid to suck.
Right.
Like, don't put, like, this isn't going to be your magnum opus. This isn't going to be Citizen Kane. Go make your film and you suck. And don't be afraid to do that. And recognize, like, oh, that did suck. The next time I do it, then I'll know to improve on that.
Yeah.
And that frees you up so much.
100%. Well, I mean, it's because it's knowing that this isn't going to be the only movie you ever make is freeing. Because it's like, all right, sweet. Everything's not writing on this one. I know I got more in here to put on paper. Like, it's a lot of time.
Exactly.
But then again,
maybe there is.
That was a weird dark turn. All right. Since I feel like I want to jump to some other stuff really quick, but or unless you have any, I don't know what else. I mean, that feels like that caps up that pretty good. Unless there's anything else.
No, I mean
you're looking at.
It's coming together now. We'll shoot the other 12 pages, and I'm 100% confident. Like it'll get out there. You'll be able to see it.
Nice. Cool.
And I'll make $1.
And you'll make your $1, and then you'll move on to the next one.
That's right.
Sweet. Quick stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how quick it is. January of this year. No, what? I put the wrong date. Yeah, January of this year. I wanted to hear more about. You posted this on Facebook, and I remember seeing it, and I gave a heart reaction to it. And it was your opening for Kevin Hart, and you played to your biggest.
Yes.
You played to your biggest stand-up audience.
Yeah.
In
my career, played to like 1,100 people.
Yeah.
It was bonkers, man. I got a call, and it was for his YouTube show. And they're like, look, we're going to have like 1,100 people. And so we need you to perform for them. And like, even though it was January, it was like, I want to say it was down south, still like, I think 85 degrees that day. You know, there was no shade whatsoever.
When you say south, are you saying like San Diego?
Not quite that far, but okay. More like, I want to say like Long Beach area.
So I was like, not Mexico, like not
that far. Not that far. But it was 95, it was like 85, 95 degrees, something like that. And it was in this football stadium and like this junior college. And so we had everyone out there, and it was fantastic. And it felt so incredible to stand in front of all those people. And everyone had a blast. Everyone had a really, really good time. Yeah. And I learned so much as well, because when you're talking to somebody, you can be small and kind of subtle. When you're playing to 1,100 people, you all of a sudden realize like everything's got to be out here, man. Everything's got to be big, big, big. And I can't rely on the microphone the way I can when I'm in a small enclosed club. Like
because this was describe the space you were performing
it
on.
It was literally like we were all on the football field in this junior college. And so the idea was Kevin Hart has this workout show that he does, and he usually brings in celebrities, and it's kind of silly. This one was going to be a little bit more heartwarming, and he wanted this idea like, everyone can do this, so let's get this huge crowd of people together. So everyone had these kind of like mats, and we're all spread out, like on this football field. And so performing there, everyone could see me, but I knew the sound would hit the person in front of me immediately. But the person in the back, I have to wait about 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds before it hits them. So I can't go really fast. Like, I have to slow down my material. I have to really enunciate my words. I can't have like a quick run-on sentence. Like, I need to be short, sharp, and concise. So it was fascinating, and like just coming off of that just felt amazing. I couldn't believe it, man.
Yeah. So because everybody wants to know about Kevin Hart too. I mean, did you have a chance? Because I just want to. It was for his show.
Yeah.
How much time did you have to prepare for this? So I'm just imagining what the prep was like, and the excitement leading up to the day, and the nerves, or however that was going to play.
I think it wasn't much. It was like a week beforehand, and I do stand up regularly, so like there wasn't much prep in that regard.
Yeah, you had your stuff ready.
I had my routine down, and like I'm a natural host, so like I can entertain people. I will, like, this is the big downer of it. Like, I spent maybe 40 seconds with Kevin Hart. Sure. They had the production. I entertained everybody. He came out. They did the show. And then when we were done, he also had gotten hurt. He'd hurt his back, I think, like filming Jumanji or something like that. So he wasn't really super talkative, but because we're both comics, I think he made it he made it a point to at least come by and just like, hey man, thanks a lot. It was really cool of you to do all this. And it's like, it was really cool of you to do all of this, so thank you.
Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was kind of it. Like he said thanks and then kind of bounced off.
Yeah, similar to the Mark Duplass experience.
Similar to that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes. But no, that's still super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I mean, that's an experience.
Absolutely. I was so thankful for that.
Yeah.
I want to know what else is on your list.
You have a selfie in 2018 with Lisa Kudrow.
I do, yes.
I was curious about how that came about.
I did.
Phoebe of Friends.
Yeah. Yep. I met a lot of celebrities that I wish I'd taken selfies with.
Yeah.
That she had a show that has now become like a regular show. That it now has a different name. but when I recorded with it, it was called, I think it was Words with Friends.
That's an app game.
It's an app game, but then they wanted to make it for television, and in essence, it was kind of like Pictionary or charades. But there would be a person playing, and then they would have 6 celebrities, 3 on each team. And so I was the warm-up guy for this show, and so I think we recorded over the course of 2 or 3 days, like 12 episodes. Mm-hmm. And there was some great, Taye Diggs was there, and Bradley Whitford, I'm a huge fan of. If you guys watch The West Wing or Get Out, he's the dad.
Okay.
Cabin in the Woods, he's terrific in that too. I love it. But yeah, they had a bunch of people, and so Lisa Kudrow was the executive producer, and so she was also in a couple episodes as well. And her I actually got a chance to talk with for a little bit because we wrapped, and there was the kind of everyone saying thanks at the end, and taking pictures and all this stuff. And her birthday was coming up, and that's what we had talked about. She said, "Yeah, I'm getting out of town for a little while because my birthday's coming." I'm like, "That's great. What are you gonna do?" And she's like, "Actually, I just like to spend my birthday by myself." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "I just like get a place usually and kind of hang out,
have some cake, or
have some cake, and just kind of hang out and like read and like have my own headspace." And I was like, "Oh, that." Okay.
Yeah.
So, but she was very polite and very sweet, and I asked her for a selfie, and she said yes, and that was very cool.
Nice. Yeah, you have to. I guess I don't know. I was thinking about the advice for getting a selfie with a celebrity, but that sounds like the proper method is like you have the genuine interaction, and then if you kind of feel it out, and it's like,
It is tough because when you run into celebrities, I think if you're a respectful person, you don't want to bug them. You appreciate them, but having said that, you want to take a picture of them because you like them. Like that's the modern day. Kind of instead of getting an autograph, you get a selfie now.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you have to find the right time to stop and introduce yourself, and then ask them, and you want to make sure you're not ruining their day.
Yeah, it's weird.
But that one was pretty easy.
That's cool. That's cool.
We actually got to sit and talk for a little.
Yeah, because I don't know. I've mentioned it before in the podcast, and I don't want to. I hate bragging. Whatever. It's not even a brag, but I jokingly, I took a selfie of David Schwimmer.
Oh, nice.
And in my post about it, I joked about all right, one friend down, however many to go. So when I saw yours, all right, how did he get it?
We get to Lisa Kudrow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Tom's can get her for me.
Exactly. So that's what went through my mind. I'm like, all right, there's, you're looking for the degrees of separation.
Yeah. Where's the side door? I can slide in real quick.
Yeah. And we're nearing the end. I guess there's 2 things we can talk about.
Yeah.
I think there's a few, but how much is there to say about you being a programmer at the Newport Beach Film Festival? What does that mean to you, and how does that?
That was a surprise thing that came along. Also through the Night of Short Night. One of the guys who had presented there a couple of times, named Nicholas Thurkettle, is the guy I mentioned before that taught me the Shakespearean classes and things like that. He had been a programmer there. And had said hey, I'm kind of exiting their system, and they want other programmers. And so I mentioned you, and they sounded excited because of my experience.
Yeah.
And it was funny. The guy called me, and the night that he called me, we had a massive power outage, and so we were just plunged into darkness. And I said, "I've got to take a break real quick just to make sure my children don't die." But it's the Newport Beach Film Festival. They've been going for, I think, probably 35 years at this point. And some of the programmers have been there, 15 plus years.
Yeah.
Some people the guy who runs it, him and his wife are both retired, so they're able to really put all of their time and effort into it. And the thing more than anything It's of course been strange because it's all during COVID.
Yeah.
And the thing that he hyped me on the most is like, oh man, our parties. Like I've been to like Tribeca and Sundance. Like our parties are great. They won't happen this year.
Yeah.
But they're terrific.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. But the fascinating thing is being able to see behind the curtain of like
Right.
a large film festival, like what is going on there, and you see just the sheer size, the amount of films that are submitted are just. I mean, I think it's like they open the submission, I believe, in August, and then submissions close. I want to say in like end of November or something like that. So we're still a couple of weeks away, and they already have like 13,000 submissions.
Yeah.
And that's shorts, documentaries, feature films,
Yeah,
music
all the
videos.
categories down, yeah.
And you just need to have like a small army of people who are watching those
a lot
and submitting them. And so what they do is, they seem like they are very considerate and trying to do their best to get a consensus on something that you really can't commodify, or you can't really get a consensus on, which is art. You show somebody a movie and they think it's garbage. You show somebody else and it's their favorite thing.
Yeah.
So how do you decide that? And what they do is they have three readers. They have three reviewers, and then they have a programmer.
Yeah, you're getting confused with AFF for a second there.
they have I'm getting it slowly. They have three reviewers who all give like their reviews, and then a programmer who then like gives the ultimate kind of like here's
And that's where you would come in.
that's where I come in. So my job is to watch between now and February like 600 short films.
And you watch the 600 that are pre-screened prior to getting to you. Like these are
They've
ones...
already been decided on who's getting in and who's getting out. So at this point now we're deciding like, they've already been submitted. And then I'm a part of the team who decides like when they get in. And then it'll be my job to host a night of shorts.
Fitting.
Which works. I know how to do that. It'll be my job to host a night, and I have to show up and make sure that everything runs smoothly. Now, of course, it'll be different this year because we'll just be doing it via Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, that'll be a good experience too, just to see how they operate it, and then, of course, you can use that toolbox.
Exactly. So, but now I don't believe it's until April, and I apologize now if anybody part of the Newport Beach Film Festival. And I'm getting all of this information wrong. I've been at it for like a month.
We can always advise people to go to their website.
It's probably a good idea to check them out online. Don't just listen to me. But yeah, it is fascinating to see like the work that goes into it. And I mean, it'll be in April, so who knows where we'll be by April? Maybe
that's a weird one for sure. April seems like
It's
probably going to be in that transitional phase still.
Yeah, because
I'm still thinking about August next year is maybe when
that's kind of where
masks will start coming off.
And we're actually like able to go.
Maybe.
When can we go to concerts again? That's what I want to know. I haven't seen a good live music show in 8 months.
I've been seeing some live, like I'll watch some YouTube videos because I watch Linkin Park videos online. It kind of makes me happy.
Yeah.
But like seeing those concerts, like the audiences back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, that's crazy. That would not happen right now.
People just standing next to each other.
But yeah, no, that's cool. You're a programmer for the first time.
Yeah.
At an established film festival. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, as you had mentioned, AFF, which is Austin Film Festival. I've been a reader for them for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I read for them this year thanks to your recommendation.
Good. Yeah. You have a keen eye, so I think and I think as well they paid me this year.
Yeah.
And I think it was because they were really scrambling. I think a lot of their normal readers bounced because, of course, one of the big draws of like reading for Austin
is getting your
fact
ticket.
You get to go. Yeah, you get to go to the film festival and you're kind of like a part of it. And so when people realize it's just going to be online this year, I think just a lot of people ran out the door. So they came to me like, can you read 300 scripts in 2 weeks? I said, sure.
We'll give you $5 a script.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You think we got it?
We're pretty much there, and you've got another thing coming up here. One, if you can squeeze a story in the next like 2 minutes. Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
Does that ring the bell?
It does not.
Never mind then. That's all I got.
All right.
No. What I will.
What was the Justin Timberlake thing?
I was watching. You mentioned a production company.
Oh yeah.
And Justin Timberlake was a part of the reel, but I don't know how involved you were in all those videos and stuff.
This was also an interesting thing as well. More of a learning more than anything else. I never met Justin Timberlake. Let me just say that right off.
Oh, yeah.
I had a very small production company, and we were approached by Columbia, Sony Pictures, to put together this kind of like quick teaser for just for the internet for the movie Bad Teacher, Charlize Theron. No, sorry, Cameron Diaz.
Right.
And so he co-starred in that, and then they gave us the footage, and so it was our guys had cut like a 15-second one, a 5-second one. And so as a result, we're like, well, we're going to keep this footage and put it in our reel.
Yeah. So it's more of a part of the editing side. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because there was two artists that I recognized in there. There was, of course, Justin Timberlake, and then there was Common.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a shoot
that was another shoot that one of our other editors had done. Mm-hmm. And then he brought the footage to us and said, "Can you use this for the reel?" And we said, "Yes, we can. We're going to put Common in there and make it look like we work with all the big names."
Yeah, because I just had a younger director that I just met like last year, and she was directing and DPing a music video for Common.
Oh, really?
This last weekend or something. So I was like, oh, like that's the only reason he stood out to me. I was like, I just saw him. I was like, oh, that's...
Well, the strange thing, and I think this is for somebody who wants to make it as a director, I say this to the internets. I heard this not long ago. I thought it was such a smart idea. Mm-hmm. There's this guy who's now an executive, pretty high up Mucky Muck, but while he was kind of coming up, what he would do is he would save up $5,000, and then he would look at Billboard top 20. And he would then, if there was like a new band that was coming out and they were on the top 20, he would contact them and say, like, if you're in Los Angeles, like, I'll make a music video for $5,000, because there's so little money going into. There's two levels of music videos right now. There's like the bargain basement, where like it's just like we're doing this, we're a garage band, we're doing this on our own.
Yeah.
Or you're Lady Gaga, and like there's no real middle ground. And so this guy he could get kind of anybody, just like, yeah, I'll fund it, but then I get it for my reel. And so then he would make these like really cool, and then that's how he kind of progressed his career. That's how he kind of got his start, because immediately you knew you were going to put something online. It was short, so most people would click on it, and also it had popular people in it.
Mm-hmm. It got eyeballs.
It got eyeballs. Yeah, exactly. So it was any directors out there.
At the same time, though, if you are a director out there, you could make a feeter film for that.
You totally make a feature film for $5,000.
So it's kind of like that. I don't know.
Depends what you want. I think that is also, tying it back to what we talked about in the beginning, like when I went through my cultural shift, my cultural awakening. Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the things that has given me the most focus in my career, is just like, what do you want to do? Because
that's the question.
When you get here, so many people, they know they want to act, or they want to write, or they want to direct. Great. There's a lot of directing jobs. There's a lot of writing jobs. There's a lot of acting jobs, and they're not all the same. Mm-hmm. And you might be, the guy on the weed killer commercial, or you're going to be maybe the woman who's the star of the indie film that has like a really strong message. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be the director who's doing voiceover for government clerical jobs, or are you going to be doing like, are you the director who's doing like, a low budget play, like, in North Hollywood or something like that? Like, once you find that focus and like the things that really make you the happiest, and the things where your toolbox is most appropriate for, I think that's when you maybe not become super successful, mm-hmm. but just you feel so much more calm and more relaxed, because like I'm doing okay, because I'm doing the things that I like to do.
It feels good to know what you want to do.
It does feel good.
It feels very good.
Yeah.
On that note, being that we had audio go out once and the camera go out once, hopefully this pieces together nicely. It's great having you on.
Dude, it's so good.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
boom, boom.